let's start with this session by introducing myself. So, as you guys already know, my name is Vikrant Yadav, and I'm a front-end developer specialized in React.js. So today, uh, what is our motto in this meeting is to discuss the best practices that one can follow, and this session in this session is a follow-up for the last session that we conducted in the last session where we discussed about the best practices one can follow when it's come to play with variables and out functions. So in today's session, we will discuss the objects and arrays one can best practices one can follow. Okay, let's start
Vikrant,
with the
just
hello.
interrupt
Yeah.
you here. Yes, Vikrant. So,
Yes. Yes.
guys, before we can start with the best practices in JavaScript, can anyone tell what do you understand by the term best practices? Anyone? Means in your terms, what is best practices mean?
Writing code efficiently.
Clean code, follow dry principle, follow folder structure.
Hmm.
Code,
Yeah,
code readability.
Code readability. Okay. Anything else?
The less complexity.
Anyone? Fine. So Ritik and Anirudh, right? Whatever you guys told, that is correct only. It means like it doesn't means like if we are telling something about best practices, that doesn't means ki how efficient means it's not related with the efficiency of the code. Means it also includes the readability part of it, and also how easier is the bug tracking. Means whatever code you are doing, you should be following some standard practices, right? So based on that standard practices, how efficiently you are debugging your code. So this also includes in these things. So whatever Vikrant is telling, it's cumulative of all the things. Means how efficiently the code will work, as well as how efficiently we will be able to track the bugs, fine, and the readability part of it also. So yeah, then Vikrant, over to you. Go.
Yes. Good answer. Thank you for the corporate. Yes. So we will start with the best practices one can follow when it's come to objects. So the first approach is use only computed properties. Um, while you are creating an objects, you can dynamically you must have create a sorry assigned a value dynamically. You must have done it before. But what this is a good approach. He do it inside the object itself rather than doing it outside because what's the point of following this approach at all? So you instead of doing it outside, you can just do it inside the object itself. Okay. As you can see, we have this function, getKey function, where we are returning the identifier name and calling it within the function, sorry, object itself. Okay, so anyone has any question here? We will proceed to next approach. Next best practice is to shorthand the property value. So, so instead of going with this approach, one can simply shorthand the identifier itself. So because this one looks even more like easy to read and more cleaner. All right. Uh, so we will move to next approach. is using shorthand properties at the beginning of the object declarations. Here you can see these two shorthands are at the top of this object. So the reason behind this is to because it this looks even more uh, clean and easier to read. One can easily tell ki we have shorthands declared at the top of this object itself. Yes. Okay. So this one, following this order is really easy to read and more convenient. Okay, we will move to next best practice.
Just a minute, Vikrant. Can you go to the previous slide? Yeah,
Yes,
here it is.
yes.
So here, the first one is the bad approach in terms of readability. They are telling the way Vikrant is trying to say, and I guys, I have seen while reviewing the code of the developers in Antino, what people used to do is like they don't differentiate or segregate the libraries import as well as the custom module of their own imports. Means they are using their libraries also importing in the same area, and also the custom functions and utility files there. So it's better if we can segregate. We can have a section where all the libraries will import it, and next to that, after a line of space, you can import your own custom file and functions. So yeah, over to you, Vikrant.
Next best practice is to only code those properties which can be invalid identifier. Here you can see in the bad approach, you are basically actually single coding every single properties. Instead of doing that, you can uncode them. Why uncode them? Because you can see while you are using a code editor like Visual Studio Code and any other IDE. So there it will help you with the syntax highlighting. Otherwise, what will happen in single code? You must have seen uh, it uses one single color, just like how we see in while declaring a string to a variable. You can see it's greenish. So it is better to just not to single code them just for the syntax highlighting, and as well as there are some JS engine optimization. It helps with the performance also. So JavaScript don't have to do like any extra um, of operations over this thing. So we will move to next slide. Anyone has any questions here? No? Okay. So next approach is to only use a spread syntax instead of object assign to make a shallow copy of the object. So here you can see in good approach, we are using spread syntax to make a shallow copy. What will happen in case of very bad approach? You can see it will end up mutating the original array also, where we are taking the reference from this original variable object. After we are try to if we try to use assign function, it will end up mutating the original affecting the original array also. Original object also. So rather than that, just use spread syntax instead. So it will not mutate the original object at all. So you can follow this same approach. Uh, okay, sorry. We will move to the next slide. Anyone
Uh,
has any question there? Yeah.
Vikrant,
Yes, yes,
I'll,
yes.
I'll, I want to interrupt here. Guys, here in this object dot assign method, what it will do is like you guys have must heard about two terms called like shallow copy and deep copy. of an object, right? So what does the shallow copy do is like, suppose if you are copying an object, that means object is referring to a location, to a particular memory location. If you're doing a shallow copy of an object, so what it will do is it will copy the reference as well, means it will point to the same reference, means the copy one will point to the same reference. And in a case if you wanted to update the copy object, then it will end up doing the same changes in the original source one as well. So to avoid that, and based on that, if you have any logical operation, then it will create the bug over there. So to create a deep copy of an object, you can, there are two ways. Means you can do a spread operation or operator. You can use a spread operator to do a deep copy. Means it will allocate a different reference of the new object, copied object. So if you are doing changes in the new one, it won't affect the previous the source one. Fine. So this is the one thing. But what happens sometime is like, suppose if your object is very complex, means your object is having nested way of means one you have one object, inside that object you have another nested object, and inside the second level of object you have another array. Fine. So you have three level of this reference type data. Fine. So in this case, if you are doing a spread copy, means a spread deep copy, then it won't work. It will only work till the first level of the object. For the second and third level of object, if you are doing any changes with respect to this spread, it will ultimately affect the source. So in this cases in which the complex object involves, then we can prefer json.stringify to copy these complex objects. Fine. Anyone, any issues here? Any doubts in understanding? Means for the,
No.
yeah, Dhruv?
Yeah, no, I'm saying no, I have no issues.
Okay,
I
fine.
think it was JSON.pass, then JSON.stringify so that we can
Yes,
pass the stringify object.
yes, definitely, definitely. We can do stringify, and then wherever we wanted to have a new copied object, we can parse it over there. Yeah. Fine then. Vikrant, over to you.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Previously, we covered all the best practices one can follow when it comes to objects. Now we will follow. Now it's about the arrays. So this slide tells you, like instead of directly assigning and adding an item uh, to an array, don't use this length property and make the changes to particular in items sitting in particular indices of an array. So what you can do, just simply use push function instead. Because suppose if there is 1,000 items present in an array, so you want to like make changes to a particular item which is sitting in uh, particular indices. So it will be really bad, like performance wise. So rather than that, use inbuilt functions that JavaScript provides us is push function. So anyone?
Uh, yeah, I think in the bad part वो sumstat dot length -1 होना चाहिए
Mhm.
क्योंकि लेंथ से कम इंडेक्स पे हम डालेंगे ना अगर हम एक्सेस करके भी डाल रहे हैं तो
हाँ, it implies is in both cases ना last indices हो या कोई सा भी इंडिस हो.
नो इफ लेंथ अगर लेंथ 7 है तो इंडेक्स 6 होगा
अच्छा
ना तो
अच्छा,
हमें
you mean
6
to say
6 पे
last
डालना है
item. Okay
या
okay.
तो ये लेंथ -1 होगा
Correct correct. I made silly mistake over here. Thank you. Thank you for pointing out. Yeah,
I
I
think
will
I
do
think
later.
the main gist to understand here in this slide is like, why we are not following this approach, means dot length wala approach, and why we are using dot push method. So the main reason why we are doing that is like, whenever we are doing we are suppose if we are making any iteration over, and on every iteration we are adding something new in an array. So what it will, in that way, what it will do is again and again it will go to the array and find the length of it. So it is kind of complex, means it will take some execution time. So to avoid that, it's best practice to add a new element to an array using push. That's it. Means in this case, we won't the compiler won't go and calculate the array length again and again. So in this manner, it will give an edge. Okay, then Vikrant, over to you.
Yes, sure. Okay, so in similar way that we discussed in the last few slides about using the spread syntax, we can do the similar thing to the arrays also. Like we can use array spreads to make the deep copy of the arrays. Okay, so here you can see in a bad code, we are iterating over the, we have made an iteration depending on the length of the items. Yeah. Anyone has any question here?
Could you please tell it is better in word terms only for readability or performance wise also?
Yeah, performance wise also, because we are iterating now. We are making an we are using for loop in here, and we are adding an item, pushing an item to an array one by one. So instead of that, you can simply make a deep copy of an uh, items and store it to a items copy instead, rather than just iterating n number of times. So it is just better to use spread syntax and make a copy of it. That's it.
Okay.
Okay, we will move to the next slide. Okay, this slide tells us about when accessing, and if you are trying to access like a object properties, so we can simply use uh, object destructuring, rather than just in case of bad code, you can see here we can see we are simply uh, accessing the first name and last name, and we are storing it in a first name and last name variable itself. And in this case, what happens? So we end up using more memory. So rather than following this bad approach, in case of the good approach, you can simply destruct it within a single line, and it is easier to read and easy to maintain also. Even more better approach is to destruct it as soon as within the argument itself, in case of best approach. Okay, anyone has any question here? Okay, we will move to next slide. All right. So instead of just like the last slide we discussed, when it comes to object destruction, we can follow the same approach to destruct an array. So rather than redeclaring same variables two times in two different lines, it will end up consuming more memory. So rather than, and also it will look even more easier to read in case of good approach, you can see. Okay. And anyone has any question there?
Yes, Vikrant, Ashish this side. Vikrant, could you please back in the side? Could you please?
Sorry, your voice is
इस
breaking.
साइड प्लस विक्रांत आप पिछली वाली साइड चला सकते हैं
आपकी आवाज ब्रेक कर रही है.
हेलो विक्रांत
Yes.
इट्स ऑडिबल
Yes. Yes. Yes.
आप बैक साइड बैक वाली स्लाइड दोबारा चला सकते हैं
Mhm.
या इसमें बैक साइड में इसमें गुड और बैड अप्रोच में यूजर में एज अ एरे है बट बेस्ट में इसमें एरे नहीं है
I mean, you mean object or array? I didn't get it.
एरे
We are not using any array here. Here. And can you please repeat your question? We will try to like understand it better way.
um, we are using like an array na const first name last name is equal to user
Uh-huh.
right
Uh-huh. Mhm.
yeah but here we are not using like that means
Yeah.
we are directly mm,
Mhm.
not using the user's value means I want to say means if there is large number of users then how should I write means like this
In that case, na, good approach is better than if we have large number of properties you need to destruct. Then in that case, good approach is better. Yeah.
yeah oh, okay Vikrant thanks
Okay, we will move to next slide. Okay. So, okay, in this case, we should use object destructuring when it's come to return multiple values instead of array destructuring, because what will happen, user will end up being confused. Key user will have to take care of the order of returning the data, because in case, for example, in case of bad approach, you can see we are returning a destructured uh, an array, basically array of left, right, top, bottom. But here, when we are trying to like call this function and destruct the return value, you will have to take care of the order of the returned values. Like if I want to access top, I will have to like skip. Sorry, yeah, skip the right value and then we will have okay. All right. In case of good approach, you can see we don't have to worry about like skipping the part. We can simply name it, and it will return me the exact property that we want to access. Then we can skip the rest of it. Okay, anyone has any question here? Okay, no. Okay, we will follow the error handling dash approach also. So, 1 second. So, what I've seen most of the time here in Antino, uh, most of the developers just simply logs out the errors that we actually get inside the catch statements. I have seen most of the developers use this bad approach. In this bad approach, we can see we are logging the errors inside the catch statement. That's it. We are not doing anything about it. So rather than doing the following the bad approach, we can follow the good approach. In this case, we can make we can okay, we can simply make an API call and report the errors just in case to make it more explicit and more generic. Right. So rather than just simply logging out the error, just simply make sure to do something about it. Okay. Otherwise, we will end up saying a lot of errors logs coming on dev tools. So we will have no idea like which error belongs to which cache statements in the code base. Anyone has any question there? No. Okay. Okay. In this case, we can see we are trying to make an API call. In this case also, in dynamic catch statements, one should always try to make sure we are doing something about the error logs and take some action regarding this. Just like how we discussed in last slide, in case of making an API call, you can see in catch statement, you can simply just make some sort of API call or just use console error instead of just simply console log. It will make it look more noisy and it will get basically uh, more attentive. It will seek more attention basically. Okay, I guess that's the last slide we had for today. Yes. Anyone has any question so far? Please let me know.
Vikrant, could you please explain the difference between means this notify user of error? It is an inbuilt function in native JavaScript or what it is? Means how it explains the error. Could you please define it more specifically?
Yeah, it is most likely the another API call which will report the basically
So are
it
these
is
used in custom exceptions?
sorry.
Uh, means are these the inbuilt functions which we are using here right now?
No, no,
Means
no. These
notify
are not
user of
the
error.
these are not the inbuilt functions.
Okay,
These two functions you can see here, these are not the inbuilt function, but instead console.error and console.log, these are the inbuilt functions here.
okay,
You can take some action regarding this instead of just simply logging out the error. Because you might have seen we have multiple API calls throughout the code base. We are
Mhm.
maintaining them now. So,
Oh,
so you must have seen a lot of those APIs must have logs in every places. So rather than just logging them out, you can simply take some action regarding them. So you will have better idea ki which error belongs to which API.
okay, great. Thank you.
Any other question, people?
Also, in the last slide means where you were talking about the destructuring. So it is similar to the destructors, which are available in any other programming language. There are constructors and destructors. So is this the same thing in JavaScript as well?
Which programming language are you referring to? Just in
Let's
case.
say if you will talk about the Java, let's say, so there are destructors in Java. So is it the same thing in JavaScript as well? Means you were talking about the destructuring.
No, I'm not familiar with Java, unfortunately,
Okay.
so I cannot
Okay.
answer
Okay.
that.
So could you please
Shashank,
briefly explain about the destructuring in JavaScript?
for sure. One second. Let me go back to that slide.
Yes, yes, yes. Here, use array destructuring. So, why it is used and what is the purpose of this destructuring?
Okay, the main purpose of destructuring is actually it was an addition to JavaScript for you know to make the code look more precise and easier to read. Because as you can see in the bad section here, we have two variables, first name and last name. Okay, it is trying to access the user object and it is accessing the first name property of that user and storing the first name basically. And in case of last name, it's also doing the same thing. But what you can see here is we are declaring two different variables to store two different things, first name and last name, in case of bad approach. But here you can see in good approach, we are simply destructuring it, the first name and last name from user object itself. And in addition to that, this thing is single one line itself. Here you can see we are, and also you can see it looks much more easier to read in case of with versus this one, versus this approach.
Yes, yes, got it. Thank you.
Any other questions? Anyone else? Okay, I will be adding the link to these slides or the respective channels on Teams app. So please feel free to like have a look into it. And I will be sharing this previous link to previous Java best practices also that we discussed in last session. So, and also if anyone has any doubts regarding like these slides or anything that we discussed here, one can simply approach me over Teams app. Yes,
Your
yes, Shashank sir. If you have any queries, sorry, any questions, any if you want to interact with the audience here,
yeah,
then
sure,
yeah, we
sure,
can
sure.
continue. Over to
Mm-hmm.
you.
Guys, I have shared a link, a JavaScript link, to understand these techniques in detail. You can obviously refer to that link. So, any other question, guys, you have regarding the slide and regarding the overall technical session? And Vikrant, please do share these slides with the with everyone. No?
Yes, yes, I will definitely do. Yeah.
No questions from anyone. Okay. So I have one question to all of you. I have one question. Suppose if I wanted to check the like falsify condition of an array, means if the array is null, empty, or like that thing. So how can we do that? Means falsy condition. If I wanted to check, if that array is not exist, then I have to do this piece of code, this logical operation I have to do. Anyone?
Sir, can you
Right?
repeat the question?
How can we check the array falsify condition, falsy condition? I hope that this is very easy,
Mhm.
and you all have already done this in your code. Means array dot length we have done, right? If array dot length, then we have to do this, otherwise not, right? Array dot length. So how
So,
can we
sir,
do? Hmm,
yes, yes, sir, continue, sir. Sorry, sir.
yeah. So in the same context, how can we do the falsy condition check in objects? Anyone?
I've used generally I do use object dot keys or values property, sorry, function to check the length, sorry, length of the object itself.
Okay. Any other option, guys? Right?
ऑब्जेक्ट डॉट एंट्रीज मतलब अगर एंट्रीज नहीं है निल है तो
Object dot entries. Okay. Any other? Any other method except these two? Object dot entries, object dot keys, and in the keys we can get the array length.
Or we can have has on property also.
Has on property. So why? So how it will work? Has on property.
Sorry, pardon. I guess that's a wrong answer to this question because we don't have any idea of the existence of any properties. So yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
Fine. So guys, I won't take any much longer. So both of the options are correct only, means object.keys is correct and object.entry is also correct thing. Why I asked is like why I have seen some of the codes like where people used to do is suppose if I have obj1 for object1, so what people do is like the same way. If obj1 is that is if obj1 then do this, means they are checking only obj1. So this is not the correct thing, means you won't be able to, ultimately it will give true only, means the object is having a valid reference, that means it always gives the true value, so it never gives the false value. Fine. So it's better if we can we can check using the entries or like keys. Fine. So this thing I wanted to talk to you. So fine. Then I'm also done from my side. Any other question, doubts?
And also, Shashank sir, actually, sorry for the interruption. In addition to the checking the validity of an array, we can check by array is also there to check whether array is valid or not.
Yes.
Guys, anyone have any other questions? Or we will wrap up the current session.
Yes. I think we are
Uh,
okay. All are waiting for the last few minutes to close the and enjoy the weekend. I think it's time to wrap up the session. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your time. Thank you for joining.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks everyone. Thanks for joining.